So here we go. We are going to do this fantastic lab with our name generators. So in a previous assignment, we came up with a first name generator and a last name generator. And so that's huge. So you've got a first name generator that looks something like this. And you've got a last name generator that looks something like this. So in my particular last name generator, I have 3 different options based on whether or not it's like a hunter or a thief or a, I guess this would be a, whatever you call it, a warrior. Okay, so again, in case you don't have these already, you're gonna have something that looks like this. So if you need to retype this, you can just pause the video and do this. Then there's the rest of it right there. Okay, fantastic. So what we're gonna do is, this was something that we had before, and we had used this to test out our functions. Now, we're not going to use those. We're instead just going to take the functions that we created. So I want you to copy, and I want you to post these into a new lab. We'll call that lab 5. All right, so now I'm just going to have the first name generator and the last name generator. Now, one more thing I want you to do is to go ahead and find some pictures. And my recommendation is to Google D&D character portraits, and you can look for male and then you can look for female. That's probably the best way to get like learning appropriate pictures of men and women if you specifically ask for D&D character portraits. So I've got a couple here that I'm going to use for whatever purposes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want you to type the word G-U-I-D-E. Okay, this is going to come up, and you'll say, okay. Okay, so this is our guide. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is to create what we call a GUI. Okay, and so over here on the left, you don't necessarily need to do this with me, but there's a ton of these like little push buttons, so you can make push buttons. You can make, I don't want to do that one yet, actually. You can do little scaly things. You can do checkboxes. You can do editable text areas, so this is where like the user could type in, and then this is what's called a static text box, so where the user can't type, but you know, you could like put a title like your name and put your name there and then leave that blank and they could enter their name. You can make little pop-up menu thingies, you can make little list boxes where you choose from things, you can put in plots, and for ease of simplicity stuff, you can group stuff, so you can kind of put, oh, this is going to go in this little section, and this section will move everything. And then there's one more thing on here that we're going to play with that's called a button group. And the button group is explicitly for radio buttons, and if you have experience with these, you know that checkboxes mean that you can click more than one at a time, so I can select multiple things for checkboxes, whereas for radio buttons, I can only pick one at a time. A pretty common mistake is for people to accidentally put radio buttons into panels, but you'll see that this isn't going to work, because what's going to happen is, you see how they're all off? Well, that doesn't make any sense, because how could you have a thing with radio buttons where they're all off? So if you have them correctly in a button group, then one will be on and the other 2 will be off, and you can change that whenever the user is doing usery stuff. Okay. Now, something also to notice you probably haven't seen over here in the bottom left is something called tag. So if I click on this push button, it's called push button 3, probably because this is the 3rd one I added. This one is called axis 1. This one is called checkbox 2. This one is called listbox 1. So these are like, and this is UI button group 1. So these are basically the, whatever you call it, these are like the variable names that point to these thingies. So if I want to talk to this button group, as a general rule, I would call UI button group 1 and talk to it. If I want to talk to this push button, I would call it push button 3. Now, it's probably going to be hard for me to call things stuff like push button 3, so what I can do is if I double click it, this giant properties thing is going to come up. I might be able to like, no, that's not really helpful. But notice with this push button selected, these properties, I can do all kinds of stuff. I can change the color of the button. I can disable the button so it doesn't work. There's reasons for that. I can change the font size. Push button. I'll change it back because it looks weird. push button. I can change it to bold. I can do all kinds of stuff. Foreground color, that's the text color. Oh, this is gonna be really ugly, all right. And then I can come in here and I can change the tag. So instead of calling it push button 3, I can say funky color button. And so that's the new name of the button. So if I look over there, the tag is now called funky color button. So this guy is now funky color button, so anytime I want to talk to him, I just have to say, hey, funky color button, what's up? All right, now it's also kind of weird that my button is called, or says, push. So I can actually change that as well if I go into the properties. I can change what's called the string, and the string changes the name on the button. So I can say, you are a button face. So you are a button face. Giant button. Because I don't care. All right. So basically, this is the basics of getting started with the GUI. Now we want to actually do something fun with this. So this is all junk. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this and not save it. All right. Okay. So I'm going to again start by typing the word guide. Okay. I'm going to come up with my blank GUI. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a button group. Because in the lab, what we did is we had them choose between male and female. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 2 radio buttons, and one's going to be male and one's going to be female. Now, you can see what's going on. Okay, so, whoa, come here, girl. Okay. GUI is girl. All right, so as we said, what I would like to do is I'd like to not have to say radio button. Obviously, I'd like the user to be able to see that this is, say, male and this is female. So I'm going to double click, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go change the string. So the string is what appears to the user. So I'll call the first one male, and the tag is what I refer to it as in terms of a variable. So I'm going to change this to radio male. So that's like my male radio button. Now I'm going to say this, and you're going to ignore me. You totally should listen. If I click over here, and then I go look at this. Okay, this is actually going to say radio male. But half the time when I do this, come here, if I change the value, sometimes it doesn't stick. So if you're like, I just changed that tag, why isn't it doing it? Change the tag again and make sure you click somewhere else inside the inspector, because just for some reason it doesn't always go through. So make sure you click someplace else inside. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to change the other radio button by double clicking, scrolling down to string, and we're going to type it in as female. So this is now radio female. Got it? Amazing. Finally, for the button group, instead of calling it UI button group, let's call it gender group. So the tag for this now is going to be gender group. And I want to, so instead of being called string now, this one is called title, and I'm going to say choose one. Okay, so the rules for tag are just like the rules you would have for a variable, can't start with a letter, or a number, can't have a space, that kind of stuff. So choose one, male, female. Beautiful, super exciting. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to put in a button. And whenever I push this button, I want to do something. So I'm going to change the button to say push this button, make a name, generate name. I'll call it generate name. And so this will be my gen name button, or button gen name. There's no particular reason to call it one thing or another. I'm just being weird. All right. Alrighty. So isn't this amazing? I feel like you've accomplished something. Maybe not. I don't know. In any case, what I'd like to do next is I'm going to right click it, and I'd like to make this button do something. So in order to make that happen, I need to do something called a callback. And I don't know why it's called a callback, it just is. So basically a callback is what happens when you push the button. So I'm going to view callback, and I'm going to click callback, and like something crazy is going to happen. All right, so watch. Oh, first of all I have to say it. Lab 5, and now, whoa, check all that out. This is insanity. Insanity. I'm sorry, it's late. So I have this phenomenally wonderful code, and all this happened all on its own. I didn't do anything. MATLAB is just so cool, and it makes code for me. All right, so long story short, this is a bunch of comments and it does stuff. This is the function that basically creates the GUI environment. And so you'll notice it initially says begin initialization code, do not edit. So what do you think you should do? If you edit this, I probably can't fix it unless I just, yeah, don't fix this. Don't change it. Don't change the name of your lab. Don't do anything weird. Just chill. Okay, don't change it because just don't change it. And then it's like end initialization code, do not edit. All right. Now, executes just before this lab has become visible. This is called the opening function. So the opening function does exactly what you think it does, which is it's a function you run when it opens. And you're like, this is shocking. And I'm like, I know. Now, one thing we do want to do in our opening function, just because it's going to make things a little bit better for us to debug later, is I want to do CLC. Do not say clear. Because if I say CLC clear, it's going to clear the screen and then it's going to clear out all the data from my function, which is clearly not what I want to do. So I'm just going to say CLC and it's going to clear off my little command window. It's going to be beautiful and it's fantastic and I love it very much for being this way. Okay, CLC. Now there's something else I want to talk about here, and this is called handles. Okay, this is something that we have not talked about and probably won't talk about for a while, outside the context of this lab, of course. But handles is essentially this variable that has a box of like stuff that we need in it. It's kind of like a box with addresses. So the box contains the address for output. So if I want to change the output to some random thing called HObject, I would say, hey, handles, go tell output that it needs to be this, okay? And it's like, okay, cool. And handles is something that you see, it's an input for all of the functions that are generated. So every single function has access to handles, okay? So every function has access to handles, and handles is how these different functions talk to each other, because remember that if you have a function, anything that happens inside the function is private. Well, the way that we can share data is we pass this handles around to all the different functions. So rather than saying like, oh, okay, handles person, or rather than saying, okay, I'm going to send you the variable for the radio button, I'm going to send you the variable for the command button, I'm going to send you the button or the variable for the this and for the that and for the every single thing on my form, I'm going to store all those in one structure called handles, and that's what's going to get passed around. All right, here's the output function. We don't have any output, so we're good to go. And now finally we're down to our callback. So this is our button to generate the name. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to call this thing blah, but what I want to do is I want to get, where's my stupid picture? I'm here. I want to get information from here. I cannot do that because this is private to this and I'm way over here. This is an impassable gap of desolation. I don't know what it is, but anyway, I can't get over there. So basically what I need to do is I need to use that handles box, treasure box of addresses, and be like, hey, what's going on over here? So basically I want to go talk to the gender group. So I'm going to say blah. I want to get handles to tell me for the gender group what the selected object is. All right, kinda. So I'm going to say this again. I want to get from the gender group what the selected object is. But the only way to get that information is to go through handles, because remember, I'm on the button. The button doesn't know where the gender group is, but handles does. So basically, I'm going to go to little handles, and I'm going to open this treasure box, and there's going to be like a beeper or something. I don't know. It's apparently 1984. And I'm going to be like, hey, gender group, what's your selected object? And it's going to be like, bam, and it's going to tell me. And I want to see how this is going to work. So I'm going to come over here with that written down, and now I'm going to run this figure. It's going to be amazing. Look, I made this form. I'm super duper proud. And I'm going to say, whatever you call it, generate name. So I click this button. Let's see what happened. Oh, look, blah. So it says, okay, great. You wanted to know who was selected. What was selected was the radio button that has the string of male. Here's the color of the button, or the color of the radio button. That's really exciting.
It doesn't have any callbacks associated with it. Its value is 1, which makes sense because it's selected. And here's its position. And it's in characters. That's amazing. Okay, so, ooh, variable blah because it no longer exists. Oh yeah, because yes, well, anyway. So, now if I click female, pacha, and I go look, and it's like, oh, blah is now female. So this blah no longer exists because the function is over. Once I click it, the function is over. So it got thrown away immediately. In any case, look, it says you clicked on string for female, or whatever you clicked on. It was called radio female. It's a radio button, it's female, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, now, this is super exciting. So now I'm going to take a second step. I'm going to say the gender selection is going to be, what I need to do is I need to get from blah, I need to say, what is your string variable? Now, I don't have to say handles.blah because blah is a local variable within the function. So I don't have to say handles.blah, I can just say blah directly. So basically I'm saying, hey, blah, what's your string? And it's going to say female if female is selected, or it's going to say that the string is male if male is selected. Now this is important. For what we're going to do next, I have labeled male as a capital letter and female with a capital letter, which means now I'm going to do what is essentially a switch case, but I have to switch on male being capital and female being capital. So if you're not sure what's going on, run it again. And if I say generate name, gender selected is female. And if I say here, generate name, gender selected is male. So this isn't happening by accident. This is happening because of code. So I'm going to come in here, and now I'm going to do a switch case. I'm going to switch on the gender selected, and in the case that is equal to male, I'm going to do stuff. I don't know what it is yet. And in the case that it's female, I'm going to do stuff. Okay? Beautiful? Beautiful. And I'm going to go ahead and hide those because I don't need them anymore. All right. So remember that I want to create a name. Now the nice thing about this is that I already have the name generating function created, and that's the beauty of functions, is once they're created, they're useful forever. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say the name is going to be, I'll call it the first name, is going to be equal to gender, oh no, what do they call it? First name generator. And remember, if it was a 1, it was male, and if it was a 2, it was female. So the first name is going to be first name generator blah, and 2. So actually, I'm just going to not suppress those so I can see them print to the board. And, whoa, not that. This, maybe, no. This, yes, yes, no. Here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click play. And if I click male, hopefully it will generate a male name. There it is. And if I click female, it'll generate a female name. So now if I click the girly name, it's going to keep creating girly names. And if I click male, it's going to click a bunch of male names. This is super great. Now, one more thing is that it's kind of frustrating and annoying that when I generate the name, I have to go look at it in this other section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out. Now, if for some reason you accidentally close your figure file, when you open up your figure, it should all be right there. You want to right-click it and say Open in Guide. If you just open it, and in fact, if you try to run it from here, you're going to get all kinds of errors. So you don't want to do that. You have to either open it in Guide and run it from here, okay, and that'll work. Or if you just want to run it but not have to open it, you can run the .m file itself and it'll work. Okay, so just trying to anticipate problems for later. But for the moment, I want to open it in Guide. And I want to add something where I actually show the name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a text file. And I don't want the user to be able to change the name that I generate, so I'm using a static text file. Now when it starts off, I want it to be blank, because I don't want to show anything. And I'm going to call it text name. Yeah. So I'm going to call it text name is the tag. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger and bold, just because I'm that cool, I'm going to make it yellow because I like yellow. Okay. So now when I look at the text name. Okay. So if I want, I can go straight to the function itself, or I can go to the callback. Okay. So now that I have the first name generated, what I want to do is I want to now, instead of getting, I want to set. So remember, I can't access the text directly, but I can access it through the handles. So I want to change the string, because that's how it's named, right? Is that what we called it? Is it called the string? I don't know, I forgot now. String. Okay, so string is where whatever I type in string is what's going to show up. So that means that I want the string here to be the first name. Okay. Most of the time, whenever y'all have mistakes on this, it's because you didn't spell selected right, or because you use lowercase for male and female, or things are just generally misspelled, or maybe you have a comma here instead of a period. Those are the kinds of things that show up. So this will go from famine to feast most of the time instantaneously with like just one thing that you missed. Okay, so here we go. And now I'm going to attempt to run this. So I'm going to run it, and if I click male, it gives me a male name. If I do female, it gives me a female name. Yay! Okay, so this is super awesome. As you're going, what we want to do is you want to make sure that you're not generating any text in the command window. So if you still are, make sure you go through and you kind of suppress any lines that shouldn't be, nothing should be showing any output in the command window, so you want to suppress everything. If you can't find what it is, so say I missed that one and I was way over here, you can look at these little things that you can't see because of my screen on the left, and it'll say stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. But when I get right down here, it says terminate statement with semicolon. You're like, fix it, and it's like done. And it's beautiful. So now that's fixed. Okay. So what I would like to challenge you to do is add another, so I'm going to write this down, add another button group with the 3 or however many professions, then add code to this button, to generate the last name. Whoa. Okay, something's going on with that. Okay, to generate the last name and display the full name. All right, so I want you to display the first name and the last name together in that spot instead of just the first name. So you shouldn't need to add any other buttons. You just have to add a button group with radio buttons, but don't add another like big giant push button. I just want you to work from there. So the second video will be on that. So go have fun.